Mase came out swinging, not with rumors or clout-chasing energy, but with something deeper, a revelation that might change the way people see one of hip-hop's most feared and respected men, Jay Prince. You can feel the tension building up in the air like a storm that's been waiting to hit, and now that it's here, there's no turning back. According to Mase, that call between Jay Prince and Takeoff wasn't just some casual check-in talk. It was heavy, filled with pressure and cold energy that didn't sound right for a man who claimed to protect everyone under the mob ties name. Mase didn't just say it lightly either. He spoke with conviction, like someone who's been holding on to this for a long time. When he said, "If you're 60 and still trying to play street, you failed," that line hit deep. The internet lit up instantly. People were calling Mase brave, others were calling him reckless, but everyone agreed on one thing. He touched a nerve that Jay Prince couldn't ignore. See, Jay Prince has always had this image of being the wise OG, the man who handles things behind the scenes, the one rappers call when trouble comes. But this time, that calm and cool image started to crack. Instead of ignoring Mase like he's done with others in the past, Prince reacted. And when a man like Jay Prince reacts, people notice. His responses started to sound more emotional, more defensive, almost like he felt cornered. He went live, dropped cryptic messages, and even threw shade at Offset, saying things that reopened old wounds from the Takeoff tragedy. But what made it worse was that his words didn't sound like leadership anymore. They sounded like damage control.
Really right there with Takeoff when he was alive, you know what I mean? So
now, let's rewind a little. The night Takeoff died still doesn't sit right with people. The details never fully added up. We all saw the clips floating online, the dice game, the argument, the chaos, and then silence. Takeoff, one of the most peaceful and humble rappers in the game, was gone at just 28. And yet the people who were supposed to have his back acted like it was business as usual. No one from the Prince family showed up at his funeral. Not one. That alone made fans start questioning everything. Why would the so-called protectors of the culture disappear when the culture needed them most? And now with Mase claiming that there was a private call between Jay Prince and Takeoff before that tragic night, the puzzle pieces are starting to fit together in ways that make a lot of people uncomfortable. If that call was real, and if the energy on that call was as tense as Mase described, then we're not talking about coincidence anymore.
Another thing, when you're dealing with older people, they're the last to know that things have changed. We not your little like the way you talk it, I don't get what you mean. We're not your little like for real.
We're talking about connection. The idea that Takeoff was pressed about loyalty, that there were arguments behind the scenes, that maybe he was caught in the crossfire of power games he never wanted to play, that's what's haunting fans. But what really blew things open was how Mase stood his ground. He didn't hide, didn't backtrack, didn't apologize. He stood right next to Camron, cool and composed, saying, "We are not your little." That line hit like a warning shot across the industry. It was a message not just to Jay Prince, but to everyone who's been controlling artists under the mask of protection. The way Cam sat beside him, silent but supportive, said everything. It was like he was silently confirming, yeah, we know the truth too. Meanwhile, the internet went crazy digging up receipts. People started revisiting every shady situation connected to mob ties. Duke the jeweler's death in Houston? Same setup. Dice game, argument, chaos, silence.
Man, we got a little bit straightening going on.
DJ Pat getting $1 million bond so easily? Questions everywhere. The rumor that Jay Prince Jr. asked to have his name removed from DJ Pat's paperwork? That made things look even worse. Fans started connecting dots and realizing a pattern, a dangerous one. It's like every time someone came into Houston under mob ties' so-called protection, something went wrong. The narrative started flipping fast. People who used to praise Jay Prince as the godfather of Houston began calling him out as a manipulator, a man hiding behind respect talk while moving like a boss from an old movie. The phrase mob ties started sounding less like a brand and more like an operation. And the wild part is, the industry started to notice too. Suddenly, the big names went quiet. Drake, who was once closely tied to the Prince family, stopped mentioning them. No reposts, no pictures, nothing. That silence was loud. Because if Drake, someone brought into the game by Jazz Prince himself, decides to step back, you know something's shifting behind the scenes. Even Jay-Z, who's known to move in silence, reportedly started distancing himself. No calls, no appearances, no responses. Just quiet distance. Billionaires don't play with street fire, and it's clear the corporate side of hip-hop wants no part of the storm. The deeper this thing goes, the more it starts feeling like the feds might already be watching. They don't care about music politics. They care about patterns, about organized networks, about what's really going on behind the label. And this Takeoff case has more red flags than a parade.
Problem, Jay Prince, and I'm gonna tell you like this: if you're 60 years old and you trying to be a street you failed. You failed. I'm telling you.
Now, the streets are divided. Some still ride with Jay Prince out of loyalty, but a growing number are starting to question that loyalty. Because loyalty without truth isn't real. It's fear. And fear has been running Houston for too long. Mase said what a lot of people have been scared to say, that the power Jay Prince holds isn't about respect anymore. It's about intimidation. Once people start speaking up and stop being scared, that power disappears. And that's exactly what's happening right now. The craziest part, all this came from one phone call. Just one conversation between Takeoff and Jay Prince before his death might be the thread that unravels an entire empire. Rumors say that call was recorded, maybe by accident, maybe on purpose. If that audio ever leaks, it could destroy everything Jay Prince built. Because if his words sound like threats or manipulation, that's not just bad PR, that's potential evidence. The internet is watching, the streets are watching, and the feds might be listening. Mase isn't new to pressure. This man went toe-to-toe with Diddy, walked away from millions, and came back stronger. He's not scared of power. That's why when he speaks, people listen. He's not chasing headlines, he's chasing justice. And in this case, it feels like he's doing what nobody else had the courage to do: pull the mask off one of hip-hop's untouchables. But what makes this story so painful is that it all comes back to Takeoff, the quiet one, the soul of Migos, the man who never caused drama, who just loved music and peace. Everyone loved Takeoff because he was real. No ego, no noise, just pure artistry. That's why fans are so angry. He didn't deserve this. To lose someone that pure in a world full of fake loyalty and power gains is heartbreaking. Every time his name trends, people don't just talk about his music. They talk about the hole he left in hip-hop's heart. When Jay Prince posted after Takeoff's death saying, "Grief is the price of love," people didn't buy it. They wanted truth, not poetry. They wanted answers, not philosophy. Because love without accountability means nothing. The silence from mob ties after the tragedy spoke volumes. Instead of helping the investigation, all we saw were cryptic statements, interviews full of excuses, and podcasts that danced around the truth. It's like everyone knew something, but nobody wanted to say it. But that silence is breaking now. The fear is fading. Mase cracked the door open, and the truth is starting to creep through. People are finally asking the real questions. Why was Takeoff even there that night? Why was security told to fall back? Why are witnesses disappearing? Why does it feel like everything around this case is being hidden? These questions are echoing louder than ever, and the pressure is building. At this point, Jay Prince's calm image is gone. Every interview, every statement feels like desperation. The more he talks, the more people question him. His tone changed. His eyes look different. It's like he knows something big is coming and there's no way to stop it. The same empire that once moved in silence is now making noise, And that's never a good sign. Even within his circle, cracks are showing. Some insiders are reportedly distancing themselves, removing posts, avoiding being seen with the princes in public. The fear that used to keep people loyal is turning into fear of being associated. That's how power collapses, not with a bang, but with silence. People simply stop showing up. Meanwhile, the fans are demanding justice. They're tired of seeing real ones die while fake ones profit. They're tired of the street codes that protect power instead of truth. They want Takeoff's name cleared and his legacy respected. This isn't about revenge, it's about closure. It's about accountability. And the scariest part is how many insiders believe that the feds might already be building a case quietly. They move slow, but when they move, it's serious. If they start connecting dots between DJ Pat's bail, missing footage, and alleged threats, then it's game over. You can't PR your way out of a federal investigation. This is the moment where hip-hop is standing at a crossroads. The old rules, the ones built on fear and silence, are dying. The new era is about transparency. Artists aren't scared anymore. Social media made everyone a journalist. Every clip, every live, every post becomes evidence in the court of public opinion. You can't control the narrative when the people have the power to expose you in real time. And through all this, Mase stands tall. He's not backing down, not hiding, not apologizing. He stood right next to Camron, cool and composed, saying, "We are..."
And until that happens, the streets are watching, the fans are waiting, and Mase just might have started a revolution that can't be silenced. Because one thing's for sure, the truth don't stay buried forever. It always finds a way to rise. When Mase dropped his bombshell revelation, the entire hip-hop industry went silent for a moment, and then chaos followed. His words didn't just ruffle feathers, they exposed cracks that had been hiding under the surface for decades. Mase wasn't just speaking out of anger, he was peeling back the layers of an empire that had long been untouchable. He spoke about secrets that were never meant to see daylight, deals that went left, and how powerful figures in the industry had manipulated artists for years. But what truly sent shockwaves through the culture was when he mentioned Jay Prince, a man many considered untouchable, the godfather of the South, the one whose word carried more weight than a contract itself. As soon as Mase's revelation hit social media, fans and artists alike started reacting. Some were shocked that Mase had the courage to say Jay Prince's name out loud, while others quietly co-signed what he said without daring to go public. Behind closed doors, rappers started talking, sharing stories, text messages, and receipts that aligned too perfectly with Mase's claims. There were whispers that Jay Prince had been controlling not just music, but entire movements, from label signings to street alliances, from silent partnerships to underground favors that kept certain people in power. For years, everyone looked up to him as a symbol of respect and order in the rap game. But now, the narrative was shifting. The empire he built with fear, loyalty, and influence was beginning to show its cracks. The first real sign of collapse came when several artists who once praised Jay Prince began to distance themselves. They stopped reposting his messages, stopped mentioning his name, and quietly cut ties. Some even began hinting that they'd been under pressure for years. A few producers who used to work under his circle started sharing cryptic posts online about fake loyalty, industry puppets, and leaders who act like kings but move like snakes. The timing wasn't a coincidence. People were waking up, realizing that the image of power Jay Prince held might have been built on silence and intimidation. Even within Jay Prince's own circle, tensions started brewing. Those who had once called him Unk began questioning the loyalty he demanded while offering none in return. Some said he had turned the industry into a chessboard, using young artists as pawns to protect his own power. Rumors surfaced that a few of his closest allies were now negotiating behind his back, protecting their own reputations before the public turned on them too. For years, people had whispered that Jay Prince's empire ran deep, connected to business, streets, and politics. But after Mase's words, everything that once seemed solid began to crumble piece by piece. Social media became the new courtroom. Old interviews resurfaced where artists had nervously avoided speaking about Jay Prince. Fans started revisiting moments when rappers paused before saying his name, or when they changed the subject mid-conversation. Those moments now seemed loaded, proof that the fear had always been there. Mase's revelation didn't just open the door, It blew it off its hinges. Now every suppressed voice had something to say. Even some OGs from Houston started to speak out, claiming that they'd seen things for years but stayed quiet out of respect. Respect, they said, had turned into silence, and silence had turned into control. The industry drew lines. Some sided with Jay Prince, defending him as a real one who kept order in the chaos. Others said it was time the truth came out, that no man, no matter how powerful, should hold an entire culture hostage. Mase's revelation wasn't just a diss, it was a mirror. It showed the ugly side of an industry that praises loyalty while burying honesty. Suddenly, every artist who had ever felt manipulated or controlled felt emboldened to speak up. Diddy's name came up. Other executives' names came up. It became bigger than just Jay Prince. It became about this system itself. But Jay Prince wasn't one to go down quietly. Those close to him said he started calling people, checking loyalty, reminding them who built their careers. He made public statements trying to downplay the drama, saying real men handle things privately, but the damage was already done. The internet doesn't forget, and the streets don't forgive. His sons, who had been building their own reputations in music and boxing, suddenly found themselves under scrutiny too. The ripple effect was real. Sponsors backed away, meetings got canceled, and deals that once seemed locked started reconsidering. Piece by piece, the empire that once ruled through power began falling under the weight of exposure. Some said this was karma, years in the making. Others believed it was all part of a bigger industry shift, a changing of the guard where the old ways no longer worked. Artists who used to stay silent were now taking back their voices, forming new alliances, and refusing to be controlled. Mase's revelation lit a fire that couldn't be put out, and as the smoke rose, one truth became clear. No empire, no matter how strong, can survive when its foundation is built on fear. As the storm grew stronger, Jay Prince's empire started showing signs of real collapse, not just in whispers, but in public view. What had started as rumors and speculation had now evolved into a full-blown reckoning. Every pillar that once held up his legacy, respect, fear, loyalty, and power, was now breaking apart one by one. Reporters camped outside his properties, cameras followed his every move, and the man who once moved in silence could no longer hide from the noise. His name, once synonymous with power and control, had become the headline of every scandal, every podcast, and every hip-hop conversation. The media investigations that had started months ago finally turned into something far more serious. Major networks released documentaries detailing his rise and the darker stories behind his empire. They exposed connections between his business operations and questionable financial activities, money moving through offshore accounts, ghost companies, and shell partnerships that led investigators down a maze of corruption. The public wanted answers, and the authorities were now involved. Federal agencies began looking into allegations of racketeering, intimidation, and money laundering tied to his business ventures. What was once industry gossip had now become a potential legal nightmare. Behind closed doors, his lawyers scrambled to contain the damage, but it was already too late. Too many people had turned against him, too many receipts had surfaced, and too much of his image had been destroyed in the public eye. His once loyal circle was nowhere to be found. Those who had built their careers under his guidance now pretended they never know him. His calls went unanswered. Invitations to industry events stopped coming. The same people who once bowed to him in fear now spoke his name with pity. The Godfather of the South had officially fallen from grace. The final blow came when a massive exposé dropped, featuring former artists, label executives, and business partners who had all signed non-disclosure agreements years ago. Somehow, the NDAs didn't matter anymore. They told everything. Stories of manipulation, threats, and blackmail. One even claimed that Jay Prince used his influence to block artists from performing at festivals if they didn't pay their dues. Another claimed he used his sons as a shield to maintain his power while pretending to step back from the industry. It was damning, ugly, and impossible to spin. The mask was off, and social media turned the fall into a spectacle. Memes, documentaries, and live stream debates popped up everywhere. Younger fans who once didn't even know who Jay Prince was now viewed him as the symbol of an outdated era, one where power came through fear instead of fairness. Hashtags like the end of an empire and free the artists began trending. Former protégés began releasing diss tracks, openly calling him out for the first time. The silence that once protected him was now broken beyond repair. When footage emerged of federal agents raiding one of his business offices, the internet exploded.
Though no official charges were announced immediately, the message was clear. The authorities were circling and his time was running out. Rumors swirled about possible indictments and investigations into the way he handled money through his label and management firms. Once seen as untouchable, Jay Prince now looked vulnerable for the first time in his life. Public humiliation followed soon after. A viral video showed him arriving at a court building surrounded by reporters shouting questions. He tried to keep his head down, but the flash of cameras told a different story. The man who used to walk through rooms commanding respect now looked like someone walking toward his own downfall. The internet replayed that moment over and over, turning it into a symbol of how power built on fear never lasts.